Hey everyone, good evening. How's everybody doing? I know it's a little bit late on the East Coast, a little bit after 9 o'clock, but I had a busy day today, and I took a little bit of a break after the market closed, which is 1 o'clock for me out here, and I came back, did some review, took some pictures of quite a few charts today. And I wanted to come on and do a follow-up video from the video I did last week where we talked about analyzing healthy trends, right? And we had I had a really nice trade on the IEX today, and also we had a lot of stuff. I think the market in general definitely had a lot to do with some of the really nice trends that we had to the long side because the market trended really nicely. Then we got this explosive move at the close, which will be interesting because we're gapping down in the after hours just under today's green bar. I think largely because of Facebook. I'm pretty sure Facebook is gapping down, I don't know, I think it was like 20% or something before, down to it's gapping down roughly 20%. Really big gap on Facebook. So I think tomorrow will definitely be really interesting. So I think we may get some nice trends to the downside, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so the Qs, we did have a trend day today on the Qs. I don't think we broke let me go back to the 5-minute chart here. I don't think we broke a 5-minute pivot all day today. It was kind of a tough day for me to say that, okay, we were going to get a trend day in the Qs, but we did end up getting one. I wasn't necessarily expecting that. Normally when I get the trend day signal, it's a little bit cleaner than the price action that we got in the morning because we kind of went sideways. But we did get a nice trend. We did we make a new low here? It looks like we just may have barely made a new low here before we shook out and went higher. But nice 5-minute trend. So I do have quite a few longs here that I just want to take a look at. And we had some shorts. The TUP and GM I played short. The WHR was from yesterday, and the NYCB I did not play short today, but was later I found this as a gap failure on the NYCB, so we can take a look at that to the downside. Okay, so let's start with, primarily why I wanted to do this video was because I talked about last week at how earnings season, we're coming into earnings season, and we're going to get a lot of trends, and I wanted to take a look at, and I also, in my time after the market closes, have been continuing to study some of the nice trends that we've had, and I was expecting to get some trends like the grub today, right? So my platform's a little bit slow here. I'm not sure why, but so the grub had a nice 5-minute trend, right? So I was expecting to get some examples like this. Most of them are all gaps. I'm pretty sure they were all gaps. The NYCB was a small gap up that got sold, but I'm pretty sure all of these were pro gap ups. So what I find is that when we get a pro gap up, the grub was a pretty good pro gap up. I think I'd rate it as a tier 2, had pretty good shock value, but we were into a little bit of resistance here, but early on, right at the open, we ended up breaking this resistance and then doing a buy setup. So we're going to take a look at these, and let's start with the APX. The rest are mainly examples. The grub really only had one example, but I just want to take a look at these, and we had most of these, I or other moderators in the room mentioned, right? So let's take a look at the APH. The APH, we'll start with the daily chart here, right? It was a pro gap up. We got this gap down that got bought, base sideways, and then we gapped right over this daily base here, right? Right over this daily base. So I did like this small gap up. It wasn't a highly rated gap, but this also is transitioning here on the APH. I believe this is, let me double check. Okay, yeah, so we're confirming this weekly chart here for a move higher. All right, so this was that base. We're inside a weekly buy setup, and we got a gap up confirming that weekly buy setup here. Okay, so that was the larger time frame on the APH. And then let's go to the 5-minute chart. And this wasn't as good of a gap, but we started to get this really nice trend here. All right, I saw this breakout here, and I didn't think it was that good. It's a little bit extended on the 5-minute here, and I didn't think it was that good of a breakout, so I ended up passing on this. But what I did like was we started to base again right at the whole number here, right at $92. Right, and so what I liked was I liked how, remember we talked about last week, where are the wide range bars, and are if they're at the beginning of the move, are they getting follow through? Right? So we got wide range bars here, and then we started to get wide range bars on this buy setup. We had 2 red bars here that immediately got reversed. We had another red bar here, and those ended up getting reversed. So I think this was some choppy price action here. I talked about this retesting 5-minute buy setup. I don't think it was good enough to play. It certainly, worked really well, but I don't think this was good enough to play. We ended up getting this base here, and then we ended up basing again, right? So I liked this trend here where we're getting these narrow body bars and starting to grind higher, and also the Qs are continuing to grind higher here as well. So the numbers I put out, I think I took a picture here. Okay, yeah, so here was the numbers that I put out on the APH long, 92 by 91.73. Now, I got skipped on this, okay? So I didn't get this because I got skipped, but this ended up working really nicely. We got this move here, stops down here, and we got a really nice move after that. Now, this was target 1. I mentioned this was coming into a target 1 here, and which was roughly about an hour and a half or so, and this was kind of just a bonus with the market ripping at the end of the day, right? But this is I thought this was a pretty nice entry. We had a breakout here. Note the moving averages coming right underneath price here. We had a breakout, had to live through this pullback, but again, respected the 5-minute trend here, right? So this was a good example of a nice 5-minute trend on a professional gap up. Okay, let's go to the USNA. USNA gave a couple entries. I know Sammy mentioned this shakeout entry here. It was very spready in the morning, and I think this was the only other really good entry here, this breakout, right? Moving average coming underneath price. You can see that we got some wide range bars here starting to move. We got a wide range red bar here, immediately got reversed. Another wide range red bar here, immediately got reversed, right? And then we started to base sideways here. Moving average came underneath price. And I think this was a pretty good entry as a breakout here. It was pretty spready. I think it was playable. I did play the IEX, which was also very spready, that we'll take a look at next. But I think this was a really nice entry pattern, right? So I didn't pass this, or I ended up passing on this, but I do think this was a really nice pattern. If you're going to study 5-minute trends here, where we get this buy setup, base sideways here, and then end up breaking higher. Right, so I think this was another really nice picture of an entry into the 5-minute trend. And if you note, most of the entries are right at the moving average here, right? Moving average starting to come underneath price here. And not that I think that the moving average is magical here, but the moving average does tell me that we've based sideways for a while. The average of the last 20 bars is a 20-period moving average. The average of the people that got in the last 20 bars are roughly break even here, and then we get another move that continues higher here. Okay, so I used it to kind of help me interpret the candlesticks and the price action faster. It's not that it's necessarily magical or anything like that. Okay, so that was the USNA, and that was a pro gap up as well. The USNA APH was a pro gap up. Okay, here was the IEX. This was mentioned by Ifan here when he was on the mic, and was a 35-cent stop. Right? Again, entry, moving average coming right underneath price. We get a nice 5-minute buy setup here. This was pretty spready. I don't think that this buy setup, well, let's take a look. Because of the spread in the morning, yeah, so this is pretty tough because it's spready here, right? But if we look, we get all of this sloppy price action here, and then we get this nice base, right? narrow body bars here, basing sideways, moving average coming underneath price, and we ended up breaking out here, right? So this was a really good trade here. The entry was the breakout here. I offered out half at 1R, which was the high of the day, because it was spready. That's not what I typically like to do, but sometimes on spready stocks, I'll offer some out. So it was a 35-cent stop. I think I got in at 106.07, I think, and then I offered out at 106.51. I ended up getting filled, I believe it was 51, right? Then once we started to make this move higher here, I ended up taking a quarter, and then the last quarter I had a late exit because I think I was watching that APH at the time, but I was trailing 5-minute bar by bar, and I didn't move my stop up in time under this bar, so I ended up trailing out here and took a little bit of slippage on the exit, right? But still a really nice trade. I mean, it was a 35-cent stop. I think this exit, which was the runner position, I know it was up at one point like $3.80, but well, let's see. Let's say this is 149.45, $3.40 then, right? $3.40. So really nice trade, right? And this is the kind of stuff that I really like to go after. Right, we get these nice 5-minute trends, entries at the moving average, and this was a kind of an exceptional play, but these are the kind of trends that we get. And I said that last week, that we get these trends that they just continue to go, right? And this is one of those examples. Okay, so let's see. Let's carry on here. The Grub. The only real entry that I really liked, I think a lot of these were tough because we were extended from the 5-minute. There was a 1-minute buy setup that I know that Sammy mentioned, and maybe this breakout on the 2-minute was okay. I know I was pretty busy in the morning. Yeah, I think just this 1-minute buy setup was the only entry, right? So, which is good, and I like to get into a 1-minute buy setup like this and hold a runner position. I think that was probably the only entry that was really, really good. Yeah. So this 5-minute buy setup, I wait for confirmation depending on how we top out here, right? So we got a breakout failure here, so I needed confirmation, and we didn't get it, and we ended up failing there. So that's why I didn't play this 5-minute buy setup, because of this top. Okay, so that was the Grub. Looks a lot better than what I think you could extract from it. There was only really that buy setup. Okay, so WM also had a buy setup here. I didn't have this on the gaps list at the time, right? Really nice gap. I didn't have this as a gap up, but this is a really nice gap. What I do think was playable here, and the market I'm sure had something to do with it, but I think this breakout towards the end of the day was playable, right? Note how a lot of these, not all of them, but a lot of them end up closing towards the highs, right? We closed towards the high of the day. So I think that this breakout I think it was okay. I was involved with the ATTU, which was a breakout, 15-minute late day breakout, which was pretty wild. So I just played that. I ended up taking a target 1 at 16.05, I think, and then I killed the rest. I think I got filled at 69 here. Pretty sure, but this was very wild. Yeah, 69 ended up getting filled here. Okay, so last one is the FLIR on the long side here, and this buy setup I think was playable. This breakout I think was tough. I think this breakout was okay. But really this buy setup was the only thing that was playable. Now, one thing I want to mention is that if I get a confirmed buy setup on a smaller time frame, well, what do I mean on a confirmed buy setup on a smaller time frame? Well, let's say the 2-minute, let's say the 2-minute moves up here, retests, and then we trigger, right? That's a confirmed buy setup, where we fail on a 2-minute sell setup and transition on the smaller time frame. Okay, so I did not get that on the FLIR here. Okay, but what I do think is playable is because these trends respect 5-minute significant pivots, what I do think is playable is taking the 5-minute buy setup and putting the stop under the last 5-minute significant pivot. Okay, cuts the R to R a lot, but it's a way to get into the 5-minute trend with a safe stop under the 5-minute significant pivot. So if I do stop out, I know that the trend is over, right? That's the only reason why I want to get out of a stock that's trending, is when the trend's over. It does cut the R to R, but a lot of times it's an entry into the 5-minute trend. And this would have been roughly 2 Rs on something that, and a lot of times once it triggers and starts to base sideways, you can move your stop up pretty quickly, right? The hog the other day, the hog, I did that on this buy setup here, right? Sized it here, ended up taking half, and then the back half ended up stopping out, right? So here's a buy setup yesterday on a gap up where I did play this buy setup here, and ended up sizing it to the prior 5-minute significant pivot, and this one did not end up working, right? But this is, I was just thinking that this was an example that I had from the other day where I did not size it to that pivot because we didn't have confirmation. Okay. All right, so those are a couple longs there. And let's go to the shorts here. The WHR I played yesterday, played it right at the open. And I took a 1-minute high-low, I believe, and then added to it. We had a nice trend in the morning here. And this ended up closing at the lows, I believe. Let me make this a little bit bigger. But I ended up getting out of it early here. Yeah, ended up closing at the lows. But I ended up getting out of half here, a quarter down here, and then I exited some up here as well. Right? Let me put on my markers here. Should just leave these on. Sometimes they're just distracting. Right? Okay, yeah, so took a 1-minute entry, added. And we had a really nice trend here, right? So ended up trailing some here, took some slippage on this, but we broke a 2-minute significant pivot here. So this is a good example of where we had a nice 2-minute trend at the open. Let me go all the way back here. Yeah. So we had a nice 2-minute trend at the open, and then when we broke this significant pivot, that's when I ended up trailing out a quarter. And then the remainder of the quarter, once we broke the 5-minute there, I didn't want to live through a 15-minute pullback, which we didn't end up getting here, right? But this is another example of a nice trend that we had at the open, right? WHR was one of the favorite gaps that I had. We were gapping below this whole base here. Let's look at the weekly chart here. So pro gap down, we were continuing this weekly rollover here. Okay, so that was the WHR. The TUP I played today this only ended up being a break-even trade, which is a little bit disappointing because I kind of mismanaged the TUP and the GM, so I had to apologize to the guys in the room. The GM did make some money, but the TUP was a small loser for me because I took some slippage as well. Okay, so here's the entry. So right at the declining 20 MA, shakeout, and there's the entry, right? Sell setup right here. Right, so hopefully you guys are seeing that I'm going after these, and in the morning I'm using 2-minute charts this early in the morning, but later in the day I'm using 5-minute charts, and the entries are at the moving average, and I'm looking to get into the downtrend. Okay, so this was close to a target 1. I know some people in the room ended up taking half here. I ended up trailing half over this topping tail, and then it popped, and I got the spread ended up opening, and I didn't get filled on the exit, so I got filled when it came back down here. But this was a call later in the day by Sammy, which was really nice here, right? Okay, so that was the TUP and the GM, but the TUP, what I was looking for was a all-day trend. Same thing with the GM, right? Did the market probably have some influence on some of these shorts? Probably. The GM also did have some support on the daily chart. But the GM was a pretty nice trade. I played this 1 minute sell setup at the open, got out of it right away, took a small loss on that, and then once we got this shakeout, that's when I posted the GM. I didn't take a picture of it, but if come check us out in the room. We put numbers out on anytime I have time. I put numbers out on anything that I take. So the GM, this was the sell setup here. Nice shakeout here, and I was just looking to enter into this downtrend. Unfortunately, this was the mistake I made. Ended up trailing the half the position, roughly break even, because we did add to this. And it ended up getting shaken out. I was the sucker here. I ended up getting shaken out on this breakout. Ended up rolling over, so would have been able to get a quarter out. But after that, it kind of fizzled out and didn't do anything. So the GM, that's what I was looking for on this. We were able to get a nice target one here at an R&a-half with the add and reduce the stop. But the rest of it did not end up following through. But what I was going for was a nice 5-minute downtrend, which, again, I don't know if we're always going to get that, right? But what I want to do is I want to put myself in the position where that is a possibility. Now, because the market started trending higher, I switched to the longs, which is why I went after the EIX. Okay, and the NYCB is a short. Now, this was clearly on its own page. We had a gap up that got sold. So this was a gap berry here. Really nice 5-minute downtrend here. I think there was only one entry that was really good right here. Right? Base, breakout, into the declining 20. Really nice move lower here. Okay? So hopefully these pictures are starting to stand out to you guys, right? Where we get this breakout failure into the declining 20 and a nice move. This sell setup, although this did make it back to the low of the day, playing this sell setup here, I saw it and I ended up passing. It did make it roughly to the low of the day, right? But we didn't make new lows. I end up passing because part of interpreting the health of the trend, like we talked about, is we started to get wide range bars at the end of the move here. And we did get some volume here. Right? So I ended up passing on this sell setup, even though it was a confirmed sell setup because we had a buy setup failure on the 2 minute and we rolled over here. I ended up passing because we started to get these wide range bars at the end. And to be honest, we didn't make a new low, right? There may have been money to be made here on the sell setup, but probably only half an R, if I'm honest. Right? If you took some towards the lows and that was 1 R and exited some at the close, break even. So probably half an R. But this sell setup was the one, right? So hopefully some of these pictures, you guys are starting to pick up on some of this, right? And all of these, the daily chart, we had a pro gap up, or like this, the NYCB, we had a gap up that got sold, right? So we all have really nice daily charts and then really nice 5-minute trends. All right, so a little bit longer of a video than I was kind of anticipating, but hopefully this was helpful, right? I just wanted to go over, so just from the last 2 days, there was more on Monday. I take pictures of all this stuff so I could just keep talking about these, and the reason why I wanted to come back on is these are the kind of patterns that I'm going to be going after, especially later in the day. In the morning, I'm focused on the 1 and 2 minute chart, right? Playing pro gaps at the open. But later in the day, these are the 5-minute trends that I want to get involved in. All right. So I just wanted to come on because we talked about last week about how we would start to get more of these, and we are getting more of them for sure, right? So I was able to take advantage of some of them. I know a lot of people in the room were able to take advantage of them. So if you're interested in some of this stuff, come check us out in the Black Room. And yeah, as always, stay in process. I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks here because we are in earnings season. So there's going to be a lot of stuff. So thanks, everybody. I hope you guys have a great night, and I will talk to you guys over the next couple of days.